Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the DFO DFS report for Tuesday, January the 25th. I hope you guys are all having a nice start to the week. Yesterday's show was terrific. I think we pretty much hit everything. It was nearly the perfect show. Hopefully somebody built the perfect lineup out there. But last night on FanDuel, had Calgary 1, Hampus, Lindholm, and Lehner, unfortunately. Marchessault, Carlson, Janmark with Lehner. Close, very close. Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of the Golden Knights last night, but Lehner on FanDuel was a no-brainer. I had a little bit of Lehner on DK as well, but mostly Shesterkin, who was great, super high owned, not that surprising. But I do just want to start today's show. Quick apology, I'm a little under the weather today, so I'm a little sniffly. Or if today's show is a little bit quicker than normal, I do apologize for that. But we'll get through it. We've got an 8-gamer here, so let's start with the goalies. We've got Akira Schmid in net for the Devils against Braden Holtby for the Stars. Schmid's been terrific at the AHL level, has yet to lose in regulation, I believe, in 11 starts, with like a .945 save percentage. Really struggling at the NHL level, though, so it's kind of we'll have to kind of see what we get out of him tonight. I think a lot of people will probably target the Stars because of him. I think he's probably a little bit better than what we've seen out of him at the NHL level, but we'll kind of see how that goes tonight. Corey finished 35th in the breakaway. Very nice. Got the Rona. I actually had the Rona after Christmas, so I think I'm clear there. Evan Rodriguez, Hattie, feel better soon. Cheers. All right, early Evan Rodriguez Hattie pick. Continuing on with the goalies here, Matt Murray likely to start for the Senators, Aaron Dell for the Sabres. Yari will go for the Penguins against our boy Carlo Vamoka for the Coyotes. Freddie Anderson likely to start for the Hurricanes. Most likely going to see Laurent Brossoit for the Golden Knights. He returns, I believe it's his first start since January 2nd or something like that. He was the backup last night, so he should be good to go tonight. No indication on who starts for the Islanders or Flyers, unless the Flyers goalie is confirmed while I'm live here. I know that they were talking to the press as I was coming live, so potentially if anybody hears anything about Martin Jones or Carter Hart starting, let me know. For now, Ilya Sorokin projected to start for the Islanders, but both goalies unconfirmed there. Connor Hellebuck and Sergei Bobrovsky will go head-to-head as the Jets host the Panthers. We got Philip Grubauer, most likely going to see UC Saros for the Nashville Predators. In the nightcap, Spencer Martin gets activated from the COVID-19 protocol list, gets the nod for the Canucks against Mikko Koskinen for the Edmonton Oilers. All right. Implied totals tonight, Pittsburgh against the Coyotes, the biggest favorites by a mile on tonight's slate, 4.2 implied goals for, just 2 expected goals or implied goals for the Coyotes. The Hurricanes, the Senators, Panthers, Oilers, Islanders, Predators, and Stars are kind of your top dogs on tonight's slate. A little bit surprised to see the Hurricanes as high as they are. I mean, I guess with Brossoit starting, it makes a little bit of sense. But the Golden Knights are still a pretty solid defensive hockey club. So a little surprising how big of favorites they are there. The implied total quite high for the Hurricanes. So we'll keep an eye on that as we move along today's show. The Senators against the Sabres, not really all that surprising. You got the Panthers against the Jets. A little bit surprising to see them that high. I don't think the Jets are the best defensive team in hockey, but the Panthers can score with the best of them. So 3.6 implied goals for them. It's tied with the Oilers in Vancouver against Spencer Martin. See how they, big win for them in the Battle of Alberta over the weekend. See if they can carry any momentum. They get Ryan Nugent-Hopkins back tonight as well. So a big game for the Oilers to be sure. Tonight's top dogs on the slate, we've got, let's make this a little bit bigger for the people at home. New Jersey won. Grade out is the best line to target on the entire slate. So right now, 17,400. They look like a really interesting line to target tonight. You got the Stars on a back-to-back, a Dallas team that didn't look all that strong in Philadelphia last night. Still enough to win, but I mean, it's the Flyers. The Stars really are not very good on the road, haven't been very good on the road all season. So an interesting spot here for New Jersey for sure. Winnipeg, too, they just always grade out well. They're just really, really strong. Vegas, too, we'll dig into that one a little bit later. Dallas 1, Pittsburgh 1, Vegas 1 looks good again. Vancouver 1, Philadelphia 2, Pittsburgh 2, Carolina 2, Buffalo 2, blah, 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 on down the list. Let's break it down from a game-by-game standpoint. Starting at the top with that New Jersey and Dallas game. So again, New Jersey 1 at the top of the list. Dallas 1 looks very, very strong as well. Dallas 2 still holding their own in there. In terms of the matchups for this game, New Jersey 1, pretty solid matchup. They're going to see a lot of the top 6 here, but most of their ice time is going to come against Dallas 2. as we know. Dallas, too, pretty solid offensively, but they play a high-event game. They give up plenty of chances at the other end of the ice. So 30 scoring chances against 16 high danger. Really, really not a very good defensive line going up against this New Jersey top line that's been simply terrific. 4 expected goals for per 60, 45 scoring chances for, 20 high danger, a 62% expected goals for percentage. They've been lights out. You've got Jack Hughes playing terrifically almost every single night. Jesper Bratt's still one of the most underrated players in the entire NHL right now. So they look really, really good. Nice matchup, really good numbers at 5v5. Sharon Govich at 4,200. I don't love Sharon Govich, but if you're going to full stack, that's fine. If you want to just go with the Hughes Bratt mini stack, they correlated the top power play unit together as well. Bratt's still way too cheap at 5,800. Hopefully Hughes at 7,400. I would imagine that this line's not going to be very high owned. I definitely think that I'm higher on them tonight than pretty much everybody else. So this looks like a really nice spot for New Jersey one tonight. I don't think they'll get a ton of run tonight. So I like them a lot. You've got Bratt too cheap, Hughes, especially at Hughes at 7,400. I don't think a lot of people will key in on that. So New Jersey one looking like a really nice spot here. Just found your show, quality work, took 5th of the breakaway last night. Very nice. Thank you very much for the kind words and congratulations to you. All right, Dallas won. They continue to play well. Even last night, they didn't have their best game, and they still end up, being terrific plays. You got a Hintz breakaway goal, Pavelski empty net goal, and then, the rest is just gravy. For them, they're going to see a lot of the Nico Hischier line tonight. They're going to see a lot of the Nico Hischier line tonight. The matchup looks pretty solid. They are going to see a fair bit of the first and fourth line as well. The Hischier line, not that great defensively. The fourth line is really the one that's going to, shut them down a little bit. If anybody's going to shut them down, it's probably going to be that fourth line who has been pretty solid, Michael McLeod, Bastian. So, the matchup isn't outstanding, but there's really, it's difficult not to like Dallas one. They pretty much seem to score every single game. And then, as I mentioned off the top, Akira Schmid getting the nod certainly makes things interesting for Dallas one. The problem, I guess, would be that they might be, one of the top 3 highest owned lines on the entire slate. They seem to get ownership regardless of who they play because, as I mentioned, they seem to score every game. So, yeah, they're going to be popular, but they look like a really good play. The matchup's solid. They've been outstanding with the goaltending. For the Devils, I think that there's certainly a strong play. The same thing can go for Dallas too tonight. Their matchup is a little bit better. As I mentioned, they're going to see a little bit more of that Jack Hughes line and a little bit more of the third line. The Jack Hughes line isn't terrible defensively, but they're not great. The third line really struggles. The Dawson Mercer line really struggles defensively. So another pretty solid matchup for Dallas too. They didn't do much last night. They still looked really good, but in terms of DraftKings production, they didn't do a whole lot. So a bit of a quiet night. They'll still be low owned. So I have no problem going back to Dallas 2 tonight if you're looking to save some salary. If you want to pair them up with one of these really expensive lines, whether it's Pittsburgh 1, whether it's Florida 1, whether it's, Edmonton, Dallas 2 fits very comfortably with any of those lines. So I think that they're still in play. Not a whole lot of interest in the Devils outside of that top line because they don't really have a whole lot going on in the power play tonight. The worst power play advantage on the whole slate. The power play is not very good. The Dallas Stars penalty kills exceptional. So not really a whole lot going. The Devils really good on the penalty kill as well, though, so not a whole lot going for the Stars either. But I think that there's plenty of opportunities here for New Jersey 1 at 5v5. New Jersey 2, New Jersey 3 really don't grade out all that strong, so I'm going to avoid them there. Second game, Buffalo and Ottawa. You've got the top line for the Sabres tonight. You've got Skinner, Tage Thompson, and Tuch. They've been really solid ever since Tuch returned to the lineup. Thompson's been outstanding all season long. Casey Middlestad's back in the lineup tonight. He's minimum priced. Could be back on the top power play unit as well. He's going to play with Krebs and Anders Bjork. So basically a minimum price line. We'll get into them in a second. The big concern here, I would, probably be pretty interested in Ottawa tonight. You've got them as the 3rd highest implied total on the slate. The problem is it looks like it's going to be Zach Sanford with Norris and Tkachuk, Drake Batherson on the second line with Stützle and Formanton. So it's like I've talked about it before. It's really difficult to get interested in the Senators when it's not Tkachuk, Norris, and Batherson together. The last time they did this, it lasted about 7 minutes, and then they were back together. So it's certainly something that's possible tonight. If you play them all together, I would imagine they don't come in at very high ownership as a combined group unless people are power play stacking them. But yeah, I think it's a little bit more difficult to be interested in. The matchup here looks pretty decent for the top 6. It's not great. The Buffalo Sabres look like they've got the better of the matchup in this game. The way the lines are currently Shaken out for the Ottawa Senators. The top line is significantly worse defensively without Batherson. As you can see, the second line much better defensively with Batherson. The third line is just an absolute tire fire every single night. So yeah, let's take a look at the matchup here. We'll start with Buffalo 1. They're going to see a lot of the top line, which I mentioned, not very good defensively. Going to see a lot of the second and third line as well. So they're going to have, they should have plenty of success against the top line whenever Batherson is not skating with them. They should have tons of success against this third line as well. So Buffalo 1 looks solid. The offensive numbers are pretty pedestrian, but they're above average. They're good enough. And what's most intriguing about Buffalo 1 is they're very, very affordable, right? 16,300. Skinner's been on a tear. Thompson's outstanding. Tuck's been picking up points pretty much every game since he joined the Sabres. So very affordable, nice matchup, good quality line. The second line for the Senators is the best of the offensive lines for the Senators tonight, just because Batherson's there. The question is whether or not he'll play there for the entire game. That's the one thing that gives me pause about playing this line. But Timmy Stützle's looked pretty good as of late in terms of their matchup. It's not great. Not no real hard match. They're going to see kind of just a mix of everybody. But the way the Sabres are, you've got this top nine that's not terrible defensively, but not very good. So they are certainly exploitable. So I do have a little bit more interest in Ottawa 2 than I do Ottawa 1 with Batherson on that line. Again, another line that's pretty affordable, 14,300. You can maybe leave Formanton off if you want to just go the Stützle Batherson mini stack. You also get correlation on the top power play unit as well. Formanton just doesn't provide a ton offensively. He's okay at 3,400. You can certainly include him in the mix, but you don't have to if you want to just go with the mini. So really like Buffalo 1 in this game. And then obviously whenever Aaron Dell's getting the nod, although he's played much better as of late, you got to have a little bit of interest in the Senators, especially with that implied total. So I look a little bit more towards Stützle Batherson tonight than I do Tkachuk and Norris, and then you certainly save some salary there as well. In terms of the power play, the Senators have the 5th biggest power play advantage on the slate. The Buffalo Sabres right in the middle of the pack. Neither team's penalties kills very good. So this is certainly a game, with Matt Murray, with Aaron Dell, with two teams that, have shown capable of producing pretty decent levels of offense at times. It is a game that could get potentially pretty high scoring. With these two teams, it can go one of two ways, right? They're either just terrible and offensively inept, or it kind of can turn into a shootout. So I lean more towards the shootout. I think it's kind of a sneaky game stack if you want to play Buffalo 1 and Ottawa 2 together. It's certainly not a game stack that's going to be high owned tonight. Really want to target this Buffalo-Ottawa game. Is Batherson sure to play on Ottawa 2? So this is pulled, directly from their practices, their morning skate. That's where he was this morning. So yeah, he's certainly going to start there. But as I mentioned before, it took about 4 shifts before he was back on Ottawa 1 the other night. I would imagine that if Buffalo gets off to a hot start, that Batherson will find himself back with Norris and Tkachuk before long. So it all just kind of depends, I guess, the game flow and how things work. But yeah, he's certainly going to start there. Cam, are we not at all worried about the menace that is Carlo Vamoka? I think that's our next game, so let's get right into it. Vamoka has had some really, really, outstanding games this season. He's also had a fair amount of stinkers as well. I think he's coming off of 7 goals against performance in his most recent start. I love Vamoka in certain situations because his salary is always so low, but given the matchup, I avoid him when he's playing against these top teams, and the Pittsburgh Penguins are certainly one of the best teams in the NHL. So yeah, I'm not somebody I'm targeting in DFS, and not somebody I'm really particularly afraid of against really good teams like the Penguins. So Pittsburgh 1, Pittsburgh 2, not really all that surprising. They grade out really, really well. Arizona 1 still grading out pretty high as well. Still very cheap, 11,300 for them. I'm a little concerned about them in this game, though. As I mentioned, they're going to go up head-to-head with Sidney Crosby all night long. I don't know if that's a real recipe for success, although it has been for other teams as of late. We've really seen the Penguins' defensive numbers kind of deteriorate lately. I'm not really sure what the deal is there. So I guess the matchup isn't as bad as it might seem. Like when you just say, okay, it's Johan Larsson, Phil Kessel, and Lawson Krause going up against Sidney Crosby, you'd be like, they're going to get crushed, which they certainly could. But just, I guess it's worth pointing out that these defensive numbers are kind of heading in the wrong direction for the Pittsburgh Penguins. I certainly think if there's one team that can right the ship, it is them. So offensively, they're still really good. It just looks like they're playing a bit of a more up-tempo game as of late. It kind of seems to be go hand in hand with the return of Evgeny Malkin. I don't know if there's any truth to what I just said, but just that's kind of where these numbers are leading me to. So, I mentioned before that the Coyotes are a better team than people give them credit for. They're certainly no offensive juggernaut, but defensively they hold their own. So my main concern with the Penguins tonight is going to be ownership. They're going to be probably the most popular on the entire slate, but they are certainly capable of breaking this slate, both the top line and the Malkin line. The Malkin line's been really, really good. He's kind of been mixed and matched with different line mates, so there's not really a whole lot of concrete information. But Malkin as a whole, whether it's with Kapanen, whether it's been with Evan Rodriguez at times, he's been really, really good. So given their price, Malkin just 6,600, Kapanen just 3,900, Heinen just 2,700. They're a really nice value option tonight. You can basically plug them with anybody, and if it ends up being a pretty high scoring game, they have just as much chance of having success as the top line. Obviously, the top line's upside is much greater. They play more. They're fully correlated on the top power play unit. All those good things. So yeah, the upside's certainly better, but that's baked right into the 21,900 price tag versus 13,200. So I like both of them pretty much equally given their price tags. I don't really think you can go wrong there. They have the number one power play advantage on the entire slate as well. So if you want to play Pittsburgh one and include Evgeny Malkin in there, get Chris Letang, and then try to get, punty with the rest of your lineup, it's certainly an option tonight. Their power play has been really, really good. You've got the Arizona Coyotes with the worst penalty kill on the entire slate tonight. So, definitely a spot here where the Penguins look like they can dominate. So, no, not a huge concern about Carlo Vamoka tonight. Zeekster69, how do I subscribe to your content? I don't know if it was you. Somebody asked me that in the video yesterday. I did reply with the link, but if you just go to DFO and click Go Premium, it will take you to the purchase option page where you can sign up, monthly, season long, whatever you want to do. So that's the easiest way. Go Premium on dailyfaceoff.com. And then, with Tristan Jarry starting, I will tout the Coyotes when it is necessary. Tonight doesn't exactly feel like one of those spots. So with Tristan Jarry, if DeSmith was in net, I'd be like, hey, let's think about it. But not with Jarry. He's just been one of the best goalies in the entire NHL this season. Vegas and Carolina. So as I mentioned off the top, Carolina's implied total suggests that we should probably be targeting them tonight. Based on the 5v5 numbers, they don't look like they're in that great of a spot. To add kind of another layer of complexity to it, you've got Teuvo Teravainen as a game time decision. All signs point towards him playing tonight. He was on the ice for Monday's practice. He was on the ice for Tuesday's morning skate. So he should be in the lineup tonight, but he is a game time decision. The one thing I will say about Carolina tonight is they're very, very cheap. So $16,000 to full stack that top line. Teravainen is just $5,100. Aho is still pretty expensive. Jarvis obviously still really cheap. They are very affordable. And then the second line, $4,600 for Andrei Svechnikov is criminal. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And then you've got Trocheck, $4,700, Netjes at just $3,000. To me, I just think that there's really no reason not to play. Like, unless that Svechnikov thing isn't, no, Svechnikov's actually $4,600. It's not even a mistake. All right. Somebody just said to drop the DraftKings contest link. And so I just dropped that in the chat. Please fill that up. I think we only have like 4 guys in it right now, or 4 people. I won't discriminate. I don't know if it's men or women, but 4 people in it right now. Please fill it up. We got, 16 spots left. It's only $5. And everybody, has a chance at winning when there's only 20 people in the contest. I think I lost. I think I finished second yesterday by like 0.3 or 0.5 points. Is there a trial I can purchase? I would love to try premium for a couple days, see if I can benefit. It's not really something that we offer. You can sign up for a week, I believe, and then kind of go from there. Again, if you're, if you want to sign up and it's something that you hate and you're not happy with, I'd be happy to refund you. I would hope that you'd like it. That's why you're here. It's great content. It's proven winners. So if you sign up and you absolutely hate it, we can provide a refund for you. But hopefully that's not the case. The price here for Vegas or for Carolina is really what sticks out to me. It's not that I'm really in love with them tonight. The second line's matchup's actually pretty good. They're going to go head to head with that Chandler Stevenson line. I guess the main concern I have with Vegas is Max Pacioretty, Alec Martinez are both on the trip. They could They could play tonight. Haven't been ruled in or out. If they do, it will really change this game. But with Laurent-Brossoit starting, and Carolina too having a pretty good matchup against this Stevenson line, again, if Pacioretty returns, it's really going to change this matchup. So keep an eye out for that. But if this is the lineup that Vegas goes with, Carolina 2 is in a pretty good spot here. Their numbers are not quite as good offensively as Carolina 1, but the matchup is definitely a lot better. So I like both Carolina 1 and 2 a little bit, but it's mostly driven by their price. So 16,000 is fine for the top line, but with the better matchup and almost $4,000 cheaper, you've got Carolina 2. So I'm going to lean towards Carolina 2. You still got Svechnikov, you still got Trocheck on the top power play unit. I think that they're really good. They see a lot of ice time with Brady Shea and Brett Pesce, who are both very affordable on D tonight, so they correlate well with them. If you like, Carolina 2 makes for a very, very cheap option tonight, and you can play them with pretty much anybody. I would imagine they'll see a decent amount of ownership as a result, but I don't see a reason why you would not want to play them tonight. Vegas 2 and Vegas 1 both grade out pretty well. The matchups are great against Carolina 2 and Carolina 3, whose defensive numbers have not been very good as of late. I am just a little bit concerned, though. Like, these numbers still look pretty good, but without Riley Smith and without Max Pacioretty, without Mark Stone, we saw their offense struggle last night. I have a hard time playing this line with Will Carrier or maybe I could get behind Janmark Karlsson Marchessault at 14,700. I think that's okay. But I think on a back-to-back going into Carolina, it's just not really a good setup for them with missing a bunch of key players. Frederik Andersen getting the start, all those good things. Carolina, just a really good team. So I'm probably going to avoid Vegas tonight. The implied total certainly suggests that they're not a great play. The 5v5 numbers kind of tell a different story, but to me, I'm just going to kind of lean towards the fact they're on a back-to-back coming off a pretty low-scoring night last night and against a really good team. I'm going to stay away. But yeah, I mean, Carolina 1, 16,000, Carolina 2, 12,300. They've got the second highest implied total on the entire slate. It's really difficult to ignore them tonight. Power play. Number 4 advantage on the slate is the Carolina Hurricanes. Again, the power play is not that terrific, but the Golden Knights penalty kill isn't very good. For the Golden Knights, 13th in the power play tonight. Good power play, best penalty kill in the league. So not really a whole lot there. Another reason to kind of fade the Golden Knights tonight. Broxman kicking ass in the turn in top 5, get paid, so you have a chance. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty easy tournament to cash in, right? I mean, we paid top 25%, so you won't find anything like that on DraftKings other than cash. Formanton or Wahlstrom as a one-off. I would go Wahlstrom. He just has better shot volume. Janmark as a one-off. Yeah, I mean, at 2,500, there's not a whole lot of forwards that are going to see top 6 minutes. I think he played 19 minutes last night. So yeah, he certainly has his floor is 0. He doesn't have a great floor. He's not a volume shooter or anything, but yeah, he's on the top power play unit, I believe. I can't remember if he moved up there yesterday. I did change the lines this morning. Where's that game at? Just double check before I hand out any misinformation. Yeah, he was on the top power play unit. He's on the top line. So at 2,500, as long as Pacioretty doesn't return tonight, I think he's a fine one-off. At that price, you're really not going to find anybody playing that much ice time at minimum price. So fifth game, you got the Flyers and the Islanders. So the Flyers' top 2 lines actually grade out pretty well. Islanders 1 looks good. Again, if Martin Jones gets the start here, it's difficult to ignore the Islanders. In terms of the implied totals, they're fairly high tonight. The Flyers towards the bottom. So the Flyers are horrendous. Back-to-back for them. They actually played pretty well last night. The top 2 lines, their matchups are pretty solid, both in the 60th and 70th percentile tonight. So the matchup looks pretty solid. The offensive numbers are actually pretty reasonable as well, but it's a back-to-back. I would imagine Ilya Sorokin gets the start. It's really, I've talked about Sorokin quite a bit. And whenever he plays, I kind of just avoid the other team, especially if Flyers team on a back-to-back that's not playing well. Again, it's going to be top 6 against top 6 for the most part, so it is a matchup that the Flyers can win. Again, I'm not going to play Scott Laughton's line. I'm just not going to. But Van Riemsdyk, Giroux, and Atkinson would be the line to target from the Flyers. They'll see next to no ownership. If Varlamov ends up getting the start, then I would bump them up a little bit. If it's Sorokin, I really don't have a whole lot of interest. But the matchup's certainly there. The offensive numbers have been solid. And yeah, no one's going to play them. As for the Islanders, they really don't offer a whole lot, but the matchup should be pretty strong for them. You've got the top line is going to see roughly 50% of their ice time against that Scott Laughton line, which has been really bad defensively. So the matchup for the Islanders top line is really, really good tonight. Whether they continue to trot out Austin Czarnik on that top line, whether it's Wahlstrom, whether it's Parise, whether it's Bellows, remains to be seen. So keep an eye out during warmups. It will almost certainly be Anders Lee and Matt Barzal, who have been averaging about 30 scoring chances for per 60 this season. So the matchup's good. They're good. Martin Jones has been a tire fire. If he ends up starting, boost them up a little bit. So yeah, Islanders 1 looks like a strong play. And then if Wahlstrom slots in on the third line, they've been pretty strong. He's 3,500. He's a strong one-off play. If you want to full stack them, they're 9,000. I would play them probably over that Brock Nelson line, which, as I mentioned, they've been capable of popping, but their offensive numbers are just terrible. So they don't really pop for me, and they'll go up against the Giroux line that's been pretty good. In terms of the power play, both pretty bad. I just don't like this game all that much. I mean, I don't know if that surprises you. We saw that Flyers-Dallas game yesterday. Like, if it wasn't for the empty net, Dallas one wouldn't have been that great of a play. Philly kind of sucked the fun out of that. I would imagine that, this is probably a game that's relatively low scoring. The Islanders probably win this one like 3-1. Top line's fine. Not one of my favorite lines to target on the slate, though. Islanders one's burned us in the past, so I don't always go there. I don't love them, that's for sure. All right, Winnipeg and Florida is interesting, mostly because Florida hasn't been great on this road trip. They're still getting wins. They haven't been great, though. And it's led to Huberdeau, Barkov, and Duclair being reunited on the top line. They didn't skate this morning, or at least they didn't run like a full skate, so there was no line combination. So this is, I guess, projected. One of the reporters did tweet these out as his projected line, so it could be the top line. I mean, it's hard to ignore Huberdeau and Barkov together, but I would not be shocked if they go back to their regular lines. They've had plenty of success, but maybe they start the game together. So that's what we've got projected. Let's see if it holds. In terms of the matchups for this game, it's going to be basically, again, a lot of top six, or at least the top line. The Scheifele line is going to see a lot of the top six for the Panthers, and then the Lowry line is going to see a lot of the top six for the Panthers. The second line for Winnipeg is the one that's going to see the bottom six more. You've got Dubois going against Anton Lundell. So the second line for the Jets, which is the one that we usually target anyways, has the best matchup for the Jets tonight. So their line's been outstanding all season. 35 scoring chances, 4 per 60, 16 high danger chances, outstanding stuff. Going up against this Lundell line that's been a little bit worse. Are struggling a little bit, at least recently. 41% expected goals for share, 15 high danger, 16 high danger, 30 scoring chances against per 60. So Winnipeg 2 is in a pretty good spot today. Again, with Bobrovsky starting, I don't think that the Jets are going to see a ton of ownership tonight, but Winnipeg 2 looks like they're in a pretty good low-owned spot tonight, and they continue to play very, very well. The price is pretty reasonable still. You got Perfetti at 2,900, Dubois under 6K, so 16,600 to full stack them. I probably will not play the Scheifele line. He's going to have his hands full with the Panthers top six, regardless of how that shakes out. I was pretty shocked to see that the numbers from Barkov, Huberdeau, and Duclair are pretty pedestrian, really. They're not terrific. So that was a little bit concerning. Like, the way that their top six normally plays, their underlying numbers actually look a lot better, which I was shocked to see. I guess that when their numbers are so good, the way that they were, 29 scoring chances, 4 per 60, and 10 high danger really don't jump off the page, even though they're pretty good. But yeah, they're going to go head to head with that Scheifele line the majority of the night. Going to see quite a bit of the Adam Lowry line. The Lowry line, solid defensively. The top line, the Scheifele line, just never good defensively. So if it is Huberdeau, Scheifele, and Duclair together, or Huberdeau, Barkov, and Duclair together, they should have their way with the Scheifele line tonight. I do like them, but, to me, I was, like I said, surprised to see these numbers, and I think a lot of people are going to see like Barkov and Huberdeau together and just automatically be like, we have to play them. It's really not that great of a matchup where you're like, I need to play them for sure at 23,400. They're just a little too expensive for me to be all in on them tonight, but I do think that if they play together, some magic could happen going head-to-head with that Scheifele line. Again, they're not great on the power play. The Jets are pretty mediocre on the kill, slightly above average. So all that is to say, the 10th number 10 power play advantage on the slate for the Panthers tonight. Number 6 for the Jets, but it's really not a game that I'm in love with. I like, obviously we've got the Panthers pretty high up on the list in terms of implied totals tonight. So, that's the one thing that's kind of keeping me interested. And then obviously the fact that Huberdeau and Barkov are potentially playing together is interesting. But like I said, the underlying numbers, like, they're better when it's Barkov or Hagee and Reinhart, and they're better when it's Bennett, Huberdeau, Duclair. So we'll see what happens. Florida's fantastic at home, not so much on the road. Yeah. What the F? I buy premium and I don't get it on account. That doesn't make any sense. We do have tweet at me and at Daily Faceoff or at Brock_Seguin. I'll get you squared up after the show. Ryan McLeod, good value play. Yeah, I don't think so. We'll get to him in a minute. I think he probably is playing where he is. Speaking of one-offs, what happened to Jack Quinn? Yeah, he got hurt. He's out. All right, Seattle and Nashville. This is another game that I really don't have a ton of interest in. There's just not it doesn't look like it's probably going to be a very high-scoring game. Both very solid defensive teams. Nashville is one of the lower implied totals in terms of favorites tonight. So matchup-wise, both teams pretty brutal. Like I said, both teams are very, very good defensively. I don't think I need to waste too much of your time breaking this game down. Obviously, the one line that's kind of worth considering is always Nashville 1. They play a ton. Their offensive numbers are great. They've cooled off a little bit. Another team that's really good at home, not great on the road. Their matchup is going to be a lot of Seattle 2. Quite good defensively, only giving up 8 high danger chances. So just a game that is pretty bleh. Probably going to be a low scoring affair, 3-2 game, something like that. Really not something that's going to break the slate and win you a contest. So both teams, again, mediocre on the power play. There's just not a whole lot to break down in this game. Now you got charged twice. Well, we'll get you figured out. Trust me, we won't charge you twice. All right, Vancouver and Edmonton. This is like one of the most, not just interesting games on the slate, but one of the most interesting games of the season. This is such a big spot for Edmonton. If they're going to dig themselves out of this hole that they've gotten themselves into, they need to start stringing wins together. And a big, win against the Flames on the weekend. Now you've got the Canucks without Bo Horvat, without Connor Garland, without Tanner Pearson. They do get JT Miller back, without Thatcher Demko, without Yaroslav Halak. Just tell us about Juice Man. Let's be honest. Yeah, we'll get there for sure. Don't worry. UC's my guy. Vancouver 1 grades out really, really well. And I like Vancouver 1 a lot tonight. Mikko Koskinen still sucks. 5,100 for Pettersson, 5,400 for Miller, 5,200 for Besser. They're loading up the lotto line at the top of the lineup. Then you go down, you've got the Juho Lammikko line, who's actually performed pretty well with all these injuries. The third line's Höglander, Dickinson, Chaser. What I'm trying to say is that this top line is going to play a ton of minutes tonight, and they're very affordable. And a ton of minutes against Mikko Koskinen usually leads to goals. They also fully correlate on the top power play unit, which has the third best advantage on the entire slate. So Vancouver 1 is without a doubt one of my favorite plays on the slate tonight. I love that. Pettersson's looked a lot better. Besser's been just very consistent all season long. Miller's outstanding, and his price is way too cheap. So 15,700 to full stack these guys is a no-brainer in my mind. The rest of this team, not even worth talking about. The Oilers. So Nugent-Hopkins comes back tonight. They have McLeod, McDavid, and Yamamoto on the top line. Fogle, Draisaitl, Puljujarvi on the second line. Perlini, Nugent-Hopkins, Cassian on the third line. The numbers are bad. The way that this lineup is currently constructed, this is not very good. Normally, McDavid's line at 5v5 is dominant. With Yamamoto, the numbers have not been very good. The Draisaitl line without Nugent-Hopkins, not very good. The third line with Nugent-Hopkins, pretty good for having Brendan Perlini and Zach Cassian on your wing. So I'm a little concerned about the Oilers at 5v5. The one thing that's keeping them afloat, obviously, that power play. As we talked about, number 2 power play advantage on the slate. So they should be good there. Spencer Martin starting means that they probably don't have to generate as many chances at 5v5 to still have success. So normally in a situation like this, I'd be like, okay, looks like a pretty decent spot to fade. The Canucks actually look half decent defensively. The matchups don't look great for the Oilers. 5v5 numbers don't look great. But Spencer Martin, the power play and the fact that this is such an important game brings the Oilers back into the conversation. If you wanted to fade the Oilers, there does look like there's, maybe a reason to do so. So if you were like, I kind of want to fade the Oilers, I don't think you're crazy. But keep in mind that people are just going to see McDavid, they're just going to see Draisaitl, and they're going to see Spencer Martin, and they're going to just pound the Oilers still tonight. So they're going to be high owned. So fading them certainly comes with a risk. And I don't think I have the kahunas to do that tonight. I'm a little nervous that Spencer Martin is going to get shelled. I think that the Oilers found something over the weekend, and I would not be surprised if this lineup is completely shuffled by the end of the first period. So somebody asked if Ryan McLeod is a good play. If Ryan McLeod plays 60 minutes with Connor McDavid, then without a doubt, he's a fine one-off at minimum price. If by the 10th shift of the game, McLeod's on the third line, Nugent Hopkins is back with Draisaitl, and Puljujarvi's back with McDavid, then, McLeod's pretty much useless. So, Edmonton is a somewhat risky option in terms of the underlying numbers, but become less risky with how dominant their power play is and how good or how bad Spencer Martin is. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that. In terms of the defensemen tonight, Dylan Coghlan still grades out okay. He didn't play as much yesterday with Nick Hag back, so keep an eye out for that. Chris Russell still a shot blocking menace. If you're playing the Oilers, you need to save some salary. 2,800, Chris Russell's fine. Slavin still way too cheap, 4,100. Lindell still way too cheap at 4,100. Or Slavin's 4,300. Dobson's price come way down. If you're playing Islanders 1, Dobson's a no-brainer. Dobson is a one-off's fine too. Plenty of shot volume. Really good matchup against the Flyers. Nick Hag, just mentioned him. He's back in line at 3,500. Always kind of one of the favorites. Braden McNabb, 3,000 is a shot blocking machine. Playing against the Hurricanes tonight, he should have plenty of opportunities to block shots tonight. So McNabb at 3,000 looks fine. Dumoulin, again, another guy that I always play with Pittsburgh 1 if you can't fit Letang. Matthias Samuelson's been really somebody that nobody really knows about, but has been very consistent. His minutes continue to go up. He's led the Sabres in ice time a couple times, block shots, get shots on that. Samuelson looks really nice in a game that could be potentially high scoring. Goss's Bears prices come way down. Probably not going to go there. I talked about Shea and Pesci earlier, way too cheap. Pairing them with Carolina 2 is a no-brainer. There's a lot of cheap defensemen tonight. Ekman Larsson's another one that's kind of interesting. You're not going to find him towards the top of the list, but the power play units in the morning skate was the entire Vancouver top line and Ekman Larsson and Quinn Hughes on the top power play unit. So Ekman Larsson is an interesting one to pair with Vancouver 1 if you can't afford Quinn Hughes. Goaltenders for tonight's slate, you got Freddie Anderson at the top of the list, pretty heavily favored to win. Also expected to see plenty of shot volume, which isn't surprising when you're taking on the Golden Knights. And then the implied total isn't very high for Vegas tonight. So they are the number one. He's the number one goalie on tonight's slate. Tristan Jarry against the Coyotes. He's got the highest percentage chance of winning tonight. Shot volume is a bit of a concern, but Jarry should not, give up a ton of goals tonight. Implied total is lowest on the slate. Sorokin, obviously one of the best goalies on the slate. Him and Jarry both very, very expensive. Not totally in love with Bobrovsky at 8,100. I'm okay with it. The shot volume should certainly be there. It's an opportunity, 61% chance of winning according to Vegas. So he's okay. To me, I feel a little bit more comfortable with Freddie Anderson at $100 more expensive, though. Matt Murray, I am not playing Matt Murray at 8,000, regardless of what my projections suggest. Again, these are all just derived from the Vegas sportsbook, so none of my own personal feelings go into this. So Matt Murray at 8,000 is going to be a hard no for me. Koskinen 7,900 is a hard no for me. If you need to play Schmid, as I mentioned, his AHL numbers have been outstanding. His NHL numbers are a disaster. But at 6,500, he allows you to do so much. And if he just has a mediocre game and the Stars' road struggles continue and the Devils steal this one, Schmid at 6,500, is not a terrible play. So I actually have plenty of interest in him tonight in lineups where you just need to save salary. Also projected to see them tied for the most shots against tonight. So yeah, there's certainly value there. He grades as the second most valuable goalie in points per 1,000. So I don't think it's outlandish to think he could have a decent night. UC Saros. He only grades out this far down the list because the shot volume is the only concern. The Predators are very solid defensively. The Kraken don't shoot a lot as it is. So shot volume is the only concern with Saros, but I feel very comfortable with him at 8,300, which is, again, why I don't know if I'm really I don't really think I need to play Sergei Bobrovsky at 8,100 when I've got UC Saros at 8,300. Really a guy that can, easily post a shutout tonight if he gets the nod. Outside of Schmid, these other value goaltenders are a little bit concerning, right? I mean, Hellebuck at 7,300 is the one that I would maybe consider. Grubauer at 7,100, maybe, but he's been pretty rough all season. I think that I'm probably going to stay away from a lot of these value goalies tonight if possible. And if I need to play one, I think I'm just going to roll the dice with Akira Schmid. If you want exposure to Edmonton, just play the power play 1 unit. Yeah, and that's what I did when building lineups earlier, was basically just target their power play and not try to play anybody at 5v5. Yeah, that's the way I played Edmonton earlier when I was building lineups, and that's definitely the way to go about it. They are expensive, but like I've talked about on today's show, there's plenty of lines out there that you can stack them with that are very, very affordable. How did Matt Murray get priced at 8K? DraftKings apparently hates the Buffalo Sabres. What are some good low-priced one-off forwards to target? Let's get back to the big board here. Low-priced, I don't know how low you want to go, but, that whole Vancouver one line is very affordable. But if you're looking to get a lot cheaper than that, Seth Jarvis for one. Where's Carolina 2 at? Martin Necas at 3,000. Kasperi Kapanen, 3,900. Tyler Mott provides actually a really stable floor. He shoots the puck a ton, and that line's playing so much right now. He's actually not a bad minimum price player. Obviously, somebody like Yamark's probably a little bit better. Heinen, 2,700. Yamamoto, McLeod, maybe. Svechnikov, for whatever reason. Trocheck, Nature's that whole line. Too cheap. So, hat-trick call for tonight. I'm going to go with Andrei Svechnikov as one. I don't know if anybody said him yet, but I'm going Andrei Svechnikov as my cheap guy because he's just so cheap that I'm going to do that. And then my other one is going to be Brian Rust gets back on the hat-trick train tonight. So I'm going to go Brian Rust and Andrei Svechnikov tonight. Kind of two dusty ones for me. But please comment your hat-trick picks below. If you pick correctly, we'll give you a free month of DFO Premium. So do that. Smash the like button, and we'll see you guys back here, tomorrow, same time, same place, 5:15 p.m. Eastern. And that person who is having trouble with DFO Premium, please reach out to me on Twitter. We'll get you hooked up with our what's it called? Customer support guy, and he'll get you hooked up. See you guys tomorrow.